My name's Erin. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is June 24th of 23, so I'm 7 months in. It is not my first sobriety date, but God willing, it will be my last. I have been in and out of the program since about 2010. So I'll give you just a quick background and try not to linger on that too long. I took my first drink when I was 11. I grew up in a normal family. There's no trauma, there's no abuse of any kind. My parents were normies. I've never seen them drunk, but they did keep alcohol in the home. And so, us being kids, we, would sneak it out and drink it. And of course, loved it at first, the first drink, fell in love. But drank normally through high school, went to the high school parties, nothing crazy, went off to college to get my teaching degree, went to the college parties and did that sort of thing. I remember going out with friends and drinking for the taste. I wouldn't drink anything I didn't like. I wasn't drinking to get completely wasted per se. And then moved to Seattle and to Lower Queen area and got a restaurant job at a very popular restaurant bar down in that area. And this is where my drinking really took off. I met, my sister started working there, and I met my husband there, and people drank. I mean, I felt, it was so normal the way that we would, drink after work and go down for brunch in the morning and stay for lunch and then dinner and close down the bar. None of this seemed abnormal at all to me. Wake up, sleep in until 3 and go back and do it after shift the next day. This is where I started to experience my first blackouts. I thought these were a myth. I thought these were something that my husband was telling me so that he could pretend he didn't remember what happened the night before. I was like, that's not even a thing. And it was. I got my first DUI working here. That didn't even cross my mind that this was becoming a problem. So I just continued to do what I was doing. I didn't pursue my teaching career. I just stayed there waiting tables and drinking. And soon my husband got another job, and I stayed there and continued to drink. And this is when the hiding began, the hiding and the lying. And there was like a little flag raising in my head, like, is this a problem? So I started to Google it. But you know how Google is, you have a bump on your toe and you have cancer. So I just kept researching alcoholism. As far as I knew, like I said, in my nativity, when I was growing up, when I pictured an alcoholic, I pictured a bum on the streets of Seattle with a paper bag, drinking out of it. I had no idea what an alcoholic was. I had no idea that that's what I was, or, that it was a disease. So fast forward to a couple years, and we decided to maybe moving would help my problem. So we moved to Whidbey Island. Of course, that, as we know, does not help. And my drinking really escalated. Morning drinking, throughout the day drinking, driving drunk. Luckily, I hadn't had kids at this point in time. My husband had the brilliant idea to propose to me, thinking that perhaps this would stop my drinking. In my mind, it's like, whew, celebrate. I stop. This is not a reason to stop. So we planned a huge wedding, and invitations went out, dresses were bought, all of it, all the things. And I couldn't stop. and the whole wedding was canceled, invitations recalled, and I was everything had to be returned, all the tables, everything. And I did my first stint in treatment. Got out. I was back on the day, 1 year later, to the day, walking back through the doors. I've done several stints in treatment. I finally managed to put enough sobriety together to get married and had my first baby on the 1 year anniversary of my wedding. And got a grown-up job. I left the restaurant industry and all that. And started drinking again and lost my job. Ended back up in treatment. And I'll never forget that day walking back into this particular facility. And my daughter said her first word walking into the lobby: fish. And it broke my heart. It's just, this is where I'm at. It reminds me, I can relate to Bill's story so much when I read through his story, the insanity of it all, going through these things and saying, I'm going to stop. This time it's different. This should make me want to stop. The DUI, my daughter saying her first word, the canceled wedding. No, it didn't. So I got out and I managed to put some time together again. This is when I first attempted to come to AA. It was after this last time. The third time going through treatment. I didn't feel like I belonged there. Even after all of this, I was angry. I didn't, feel still. The acceptance part was really hard for me. And I went back out and I found out let me back up a little bit. I was driving with my 2-year-old daughter in the car, and I was in a blackout, and I got pulled over, and I went to jail. And I found out when I got out that I was pregnant. I decided then to check myself into a women's facility for pregnant women for substance abuse, and I was 8 weeks pregnant. So it was there that I got diagnosed with bipolar. And I tell you this part of the story because I was given medication for it. And it was a mood stabilizer, and it also acted as, it helped your cravings with alcohol. I had 7 years of sobriety after that. Because I had been in jail for my second DUI, I was required to go to AA and do the IOP and all that stuff. So I did go to my meetings. I got a sponsor. I did the 12 steps, if you can call it that. I just wanted to get them done. I didn't put my willingness to do everything that it was going to take to stay sober was not there yet after all of that. So I wasn't drinking though. And so in my mind, everything that was great. That's all I needed. In my mind, I don't need AA. Look, I have a pill. I'm not drinking. Things are going fine. But spiritually, I was not well. I stayed at home with 2 young kids. When my husband and I stopped drinking together, we lost all our connection. We never found anything to fill in that void of what we did together. So he worked, I took care of the kids. That was my identity. I isolated. I didn't realize how unhappy I was. I had no gratitude for anything. I had no friends. I had just my girls. And about 7, like I said, I had 7 years, and I went into the grocery store one day and I saw these cute little cans of champagne, and for no reason, I decided that champagne sounded really good. And so I bought some, and I was off and running, and within 3 weeks, took me 3 weeks, I was back out again, and ended up back in the same treatment facility where my daughter said her first name. Now, my thought was because right before I'd relapsed, my medication had been all switched around and messed up. So that was the reason I relapsed, was because the doctors messed up on my medication. It's their fault. It was their fault. I was back in there. And it was brought to my attention by a sponsor I got when I was in there that perhaps had I been working a program in my sobriety, maybe I would have had people to call. Maybe somebody would have seen the red flags, and this wouldn't have had to happen again. So I got in there. I spent Christmas in there. I got to FaceTime my kids. It was devastating. Probably the last Christmas my little ones will believe in Santa Claus. The tears in their eyes, and my parents, when I was talking to them, was one of the hardest things I've had to do. But I did get a sponsor when I got out, and I talked to her every day. But guess what I didn't do? I still couldn't manage to bring myself to walk through the doors of AA because I was so ashamed, and I felt so guilty for having spent 7 years away to walk back through the doors. So that shame and that guilt kept me out, even though I thought, okay, this time I have a sponsor. I can do this. I was doing things my way. I've been trying to do things my way for 11 years. And it got me literally nowhere, treading water. That's what I was doing. So I relapsed again after getting out of treatment, and even after all that. And I remember that my daughter has a best friend, and I was taking them somewhere in Langley. And her friend said, my mom goes to meetings at a little house over there. And I thought, my ears just perked up, and I was like, could it be the little yellow house in Langley? And I just, like, this little glimmer of hope, like, oh my gosh, could it, is there somebody that is this somebody that maybe I could talk to about it? But I didn't know how to do it. And she would come and pick up her daughter, and I wanted to say, are you a friend of Bill's? Or those meetings you go to, are they AA meetings? But I wasn't sure. I just couldn't get up the courage to do it. So I ended up drinking again, and I went to one of those meetings after drinking, and she was there, and I reached out to her, and she took me to a detox, and came and picked me up when I got out. And through all of this, I just the last run, where I would wake up in the morning and I would be craving that drink, and it was just I just felt so isolated and so alone and so just ready to give up. And when I finally got out of that detox, I was done. I was willing to do anything it took. I mean, I go to meetings, I go to book studies, I got a sponsor, I meet with her every week. The hope that it's given me my life back. I'm back in good standing with my husband and my kids, and to show true willingness, I said yes to standing up here, which is one of my worst fears, is speaking in front of people. So I can cross this off my bucket list now, and I really appreciate everyone being here to listen to me tonight. So thank you.